Hello students, this is Abdelkader Ouda. Welcome to ES 1036 video series. Let us continue our discussion on writing classes and creating objects. In the previous video, we wrote this simple program that calculates the area of 3 rooms in your house. As you notice here, our program is growing complexity and we are now in need for creating objects to deal with this complexity. Remember, we write Java object in order to organize the code such that we encapsulate the data of the program and all the operations that are working in this data in forms of methods. So we encapsulate the data and the related methods to form very specialized objects. To do so, we create or we describe classes that act as blueprints. So classes act as a blueprint to generate many objects. So we write the classes in order to describe the data. We determine the type and the name of this data. And also we describe the methods we need in our class to deal with this data. So let us now go back to our code and reorganize this code into classes and objects and see how can from one defined class we can create 3 objects, one object for the kitchen, one object for the living room, and other object for bedroom. So let us go ahead and create a new project, and I'm going to name my project areas calculations. And now here I'm going to create a new class. I will name it rectangle. And in this class, we said that we need to define the data and the method to work in this data. So let us start by copy this and add it here and see what we need to change to make it ready for the class. The class need to be act as a blueprint for many areas, so it's not necessarily to be for kitchen only. So it's just I need to hold the value for the length and the value for the width. Remember, when we define a variable inside a class, not inside a method, we call it a field, not a variable. So we can say it here, a field to hold the value of the length. Again, that length is going to be valid for the 3 rooms, and also here a field to hold the value for the width. And it's a common practice to define all the field as private in order to protect these fields to be accessed from outside the class. Okay, so look at this field here. Notice that now this area is a result of the calculation, which is multiply length by width. And in this case, this is called stale data, and we don't recommend to store the value for this calculation as long as we can generate it from a calculation. So no need here to define this value. So simply for the rectangle, we need only a field for the length and field for the width. And since we define them as private, that means we cannot access this field from outside the class. And in order to make them accessible from outside the class, to set it a value or to get its value, we need to add a specific method for them. We call them accessors and mutators. So we need to define a method that lets other classes to set a value for the length, set the value for the width. This can be done through a method. This method need to be called from outside the class, so we need to define it as public. And in order to set the value for the length, this method shouldn't return anything, so we define it as void. And I say here set. You can notice that here my IDE try to help me to complete the name for the method, and it makes sense that it's named set length. And set length need to receive some data as a parameter, and then assign this data to my field length. So this data need to be of type double, because we have here the length of type double. So we have here double, and let me just name it length or len. And inside the body of this method, simply I need to take the value, I have it here as a parameter, and assign it to my internal fields in my class. So what I need to do here is to assign this value, this or the value for len, which is my parameter, send to this method whenever we call this method from outside. Let me just add here some comment as well, and I need to repeat the same thing for the width. So we need to send here for the width, and again it should be public void, and then here we need to set for width. And let us say here that my parameter is I name it here W, and then I need to change this my width field with the incoming value W. Now we need to have another method to return or to get the value of the length. We need to define a method to return the value of the length. Again, it should be public, and since it return a value, we need to determine here the type of this return. It should return the value of the length, and the type of the length is double. Here we need to write double, and I need to call my method get length. To get the length, I don't need to have any information to be sent to my method. I just need to return what I have saved in the length. So I'm going to use the keyword return. Returns mean that send back to the class that call get length. We will send back the value of the length. I need to do the same thing for the width. So I need to return the value of the width, and should be public, and the return type is double, and I need to have a name for it, so get width, and I need to return here the field width. So what I have here so far, I have defined two fields, length and width, for any rectangle shape that's going to be used for the 3 bedrooms. And since they are private, we need to define a method that help classes from us other than this class to set the value for the length. So I defined here a method called it set length, and this method doesn't return any value, so this is why I have it here void, and it should be public so that other classes can call it from outside. And once the other class call it from outside, the other class should send a value to this len as a parameter, and then the method take this len and assign to the length. Same thing for set width. And if we need to get the value for the length from outside, we cannot call this length directly because it is private. So we need the other class to call or invoke the method getLength, and this method return what we have stored currently in the class or in the object of this class. Same thing for the width. Okay, so we define the variables, and now we need to do the calculation. We need to define the operations on these variables. So the operation here to calculate the area. So this is here the operation that works on the kitchen data. I will take this operation and see how can we convert this to a method inside the class. That's what I did. So we need to calculate the area of the rectangle. Now it's not just for a kitchen, and to do this we need to do it through a method, and this method should return the result of the multiplication, and the result of the multiplication is of type double. Let me call the method here get area, and we don't need any parameters to send for this method. We just need to do the calculation and return the result. And here the result multiply the length. We need to multiply the length with the width, and again we don't have a variable to store the result of the multiplication. We simply need to return it back to the class that called this method get area.